Hello, this is Bonnie at Rip Clip Sewing, trying to do my second attempt at a video without a videographer. So, I'm going to once again try to attempt to show you about the rise in pants and how to take it out and scooch it over so you can take the fullness out of either the seat or in the front. You can only go about an inch until you're going to have to start doing something with the front center seam and the back center seam. Even 5/8 of an inch is really kind of the tops until you're going to have to retrue that curve that goes through the crotch. Anyway, let me show you by demonstrating with a pair of old jeans. Now these, as you can see, I've already taken out the side seams and put some Guatemalan fabric down them and a little of other jeans fabric to extend the waistband to make them bigger, but they need the rise adjusted, and we had to patch up some areas in the seat, so I went ahead and took out the seam here. Now by taking out the seam, you can see the threads here. See here? You're not cutting the fabric out. If you do that, well, you're going to have to sew it back on. So what you want to do is take out the seam, which means cutting the threads only. Now you can use a little gadget like this called a seam ripper, and with this jeans top stitching thread, look out. You'll be picking at it and trying to get that out all day long. That's forever. What I teach over here at the Rip Club, now see, I can't rip it, but I can rip it out with a blade. Now any kind of a Boy Scout knife or a little utility knife, a one-sided razor blade works great. It just depends on what feels safer in your hand, and always try to cut away from yourself. But now what I'm doing here is I'm just running the blade over the stitches. Let me show you up close. Okay, see this? Okay, I hope you can see it because I don't have a cameraman. You see those threads? They're ones that aren't blue, the white one and the gold one. And see how I did that? Now you can kind of rip it, but these threads are just too strong. And so I'm going to cut these all the way out. Okay, now to reposition those inside legs. Okay, the rise is this. Okay, so to take up the rise, you need to take out that inside leg seam. Okay, you've got to do it all the way to the knee so that you can taper it. Otherwise, you're going to get a weird bump there. You can use a yardstick to true up the line into the original seam. So here I've taken it out. This one's almost to the knee. And see how I'm cutting away from myself and kind of chop-sticking the fabric in between, or you can put your arm down and go like this. See, and I'm not ripping any of the fabric, I'm just taking those threads and cutting the threads out. Okay? And you got to take it down all the way to the knee or it's not going to work, folks. It'll look funny. So just go ahead and take it out to the knee. Okay? Now I'm going to turn it inside out. I'm just going to show you on one side because I need to take the rest of that out. Okay. Inside out. Now I highly recommend that when you're adjusting that, go ahead and put safety pins on those inside legs, and try them on. If you feel like it's pulling too much on your front or back crotch, then it's too much. Now, Here's the pants just with the seam taken out. The other ones that I had were jeans as well. Okay, now you see how this is dragging this way? See, once I took it out that far, it shows me I need to take it out even further. It's not quite to the knee. You've got to have a nice taper so that it hangs properly. And we all know we love when our jeans hang nice, our pants. That hang is, that's what makes us like our pants and feel comfortable. And be able to sit down in them and whatnot, do stuff without having to pull them up all the time. Or have to wear a belt if we can have a nice fit. So here's where they were originally sewn, okay? I've taken out all the stitches and see the little seam allowance? See the little seam allowance? That's darker than the rest because they've been sewn and worn and washed, so of course those have been left to stay darker with the indigo dye on jeans. And then here's the front crotch and the back crotch. They need to match up. Okay, here they match up. Alright, if you want to take some of the fullness out of the front rise, that would be the front piece. If it's poochy in the front. And I'm not going to show that on me because I've fixed all my pants that were poochy in the front. Usually that happens when I'll take like a pair of men's pants and I'll want to adjust them for me. I don't need room for that area, you know, being a female. So what you do, let's say I want to take it out of the front. Let's say it's about 5/8 of an inch. I scooch it down. Now remember that you're looking at your seam line, not the edge of your fabric. Okay, that's your seam allowance. So you look at the old seam line, you can see this little white mark here, the old seam line, and the seam line is about 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. And you have your matched up here where they were before, and I'm moving it like that. Okay, if you start getting like over an inch or a lot, you're going to have to reposition the front and back seams and take them out too. I'm sorry, but there's really no way around that unless it's wool, where you can really mold it and stretch it. Wool is just fabulous. Love wool. But these are denim, so they're twill. So you see how I've repositioned it, and see how I've tapered it. See, I'm not just repositioning it and then sewing it here, because then I'm going to get a big old pucker and it's not going to look right. It's a big pooch on the inside of my leg. It'll look like I have a growth on the inside of my thigh, or something else going on down there if you're a guy. And so here, see how it's just a long skinny triangle, and it tapers right in, and it's nice and smooth when you take it out all the way to the knee. That's all I was trying to show in the first tutorial that I did. Hopefully this will help. And when you sew it, you just go ahead and you could sew it. Since I'm only taking it out of one side, you can use the same stitch line, and you can see, because I still have the old threads in there, and I can pull them out later after I stitch. That's fine if you need to have a mark of where you're stitching. And I'll just stitch right in that same line. And then I'll do the same on this side. I might need to take a little bit of this stitch out to spread it a little, but that would take it out. Now let's say you have pants that are just way too huge in the seat. You can either take it in on the sides. With, you know, jeans, that's a little problematic. You have to do 2 seams, you know, one on each side, and you have to sew around pockets. Thick stitching, which usually an industrial machine is optimal for that. But this you can still do at home, and you don't need to do a flat fell seam like what's on the sides usually, or even what's on here. So you just stitch it. Make sure you do a little back stitch here so it knots it, and then go ahead and stitch it on the longest stitch. Don't use a short stitch, use the long stitch. That way if you goof up, it's easy to cut out. Just a tad under a basting stitch. It depends on what kind of a machine you have. If you have an older machine and the numbers go up, probably about a 6 or 7. If you have a newer machine where they basically have 10, 9, 8, and it goes down from there, then probably you know, a 9. You could even use a 10 if just to make sure that you've adjusted your thread so the tension is good on both sides. 10 is really a basting stitch, but yeah, you can even use that on jeans. You know, and test it out, and it's not like you can't always sew over it. Don't use the super shorty. Ooh, I got a spider. Don't use the, ooh, there we go. Don't use the super shorty stitch. It just chews up the fabric. And I've seen that so many times that people think it will be stronger. When you think about it, you're putting more holes into it, so it's going to perforate it. Think about the fabric like paper. If you perforate it too much, it's going to easily rip the fabric out. And I know that sounds like common sense, but a lot of people don't get that, and they show it. They're thinking that if they sew little tiny stitches, it's going to be stronger. Trying to get those little tiny stitches out of jeans, well, now you know how, or you can do it with a knife, but it's still problematic, and there's no reason for it. You can always go back and stitch it over again if you want it stronger. Do 2 rows of stitching. That's fine, one on top of the other. And you can always just zigzag the edges, the raw edges. I usually serge them off. What I'll usually do is I'll go ahead and serge it before I even do it when it's something like this, because I don't want it to shred more. Now if you're taking it out of the seat, obviously you're doing it the opposite way. You're taking, here's the front, here's the back. You're shortening it up from the seat side like this. And see, that's about 1 inch. And I can still do 1 inch without having to mess with these center seams. The front center seam can be hard because of the fly. See how that, but see how if I just do it shorty like that, it's gonna make a bump. That's what I mean by pooch. You got a bump coming out, a puffing, you know. So see how that's just, it's a little problematic. Just go ahead and take it all the way out to the knee. You know how to do it quick. Please do post your comments, and I hope that you can see the work that I'm actually doing here this time a little bit better. I will try to get a videographer to do some more tutorials just to show you guys a little bit about what you can do also with your old clothes, and to be green and upcycle and recycle and customize your stuff so it fits nice and you feel good in your clothes. Even if it's a thrift store or Kmart special, you can make stuff really nice without having to put tons of money into it. Just put a little bit of time, learn a few quick techniques. It takes some time to understand all the terminology, so I hope this was a little bit better than my other one, and I welcome your comments and remarks. Have a great day from Rip Club Sewing in Loveland, Colorado. Bye-bye.